This is a code walkthrough for the example file CmdLineArgs.java. The purpose of this file is to show how to make use of optional command line arguments in a Java program. So what do we mean by command line arguments in the first place? Well, command line arguments simply refer to this input parameter to our standard main method, this string array called args. And using it, we can pass in optional data, input data from the outside world to our program. So all this file is going to do is just echo out the values of this args array. And since this is an array, this parameter right here is the size of that array. So it's just going to echo out how many input arguments there are. And in this statement here, in this conditional operation, we're going to check if the size of that array is greater than 0. And if it is, it's going to print out this header and proceed to this for loop, and in a standard looping pattern, simply echo out each of the elements of the args array. By contrast, if there are no args, this will just print a 0, and this will not print anything. It'll print this false string, and this array will never get off the ground because I less than 0 indicates a for loop that will never run. So as always, let's start by compiling this. And to demonstrate what this is going to look like, let's just free run it one time for 0 input arguments. We'll click on the run icon, and it's simply going to say there are 0 command line arguments. So what if we wanted to use command line arguments? How do we provide those to this program? Well, in JGrass, we can go to the Build menu up here, click on it, and go down to this menu where it says Run Arguments, and check that. And then notice that this text box opens up, and this is where we can provide optional external inputs to our program. And we can toggle this back and forth as we wish to. This is probably what you've seen all the way up to now, but we'll just turn it on for the purposes of running this program. So now let's run this program with the same arguments as were presented in the lecture materials. So let's say perhaps we had a config file called inputfile.dat and the value 42 and the value 100. So these are the input arguments in a space separated list. And now look what happens when we run this program now. We get that there are 3 arguments, and it's echoing them out, first, second, and third arguments. We can do this over and over again for some other made up arguments, and it will do the same kind of thing. So let's go back to those original 3 arguments. Input file.dat 42 100.0, and let's run this with a debugger so we can go through it in slow motion and point a couple things out real quick. So as always, I'll set a breakpoint on main, and I'll run this with the debugger. And so if we look at the debug window over here, this is an argument to the program. Usually for most of your program executions, this has probably been empty or completely ignored, but now we're actually making use of it to pass in some information from the outside world. And notice that, increase this window a little bit, notice that this is an array of 3 and it is an array of strings, so each one of these things is a string. These are not numbers 42 and 100.0, these are string 42 and string 100.0. So if we start stepping through this, the size of this array of course is 3, so it's going to print out the 3 that we saw earlier. And then we're going to get to this print statement, and this is our condition for our conditional operator. It's asking if 3 is greater than 0. It is. So for the true case, it's going to print out this string at the end of the previous string with a new line, and then it's going to go into this loop, and it's going to loop from I equals 0 to I less than 3, so for elements 0, 1, and 2, and it's simply going to print out each of the elements with its offset index, as we've seen so many times with loops. So it's going to print out input file.dat, 42, and 100. Now again, keep in mind that these are strings, but fortunately for us, Strings are the most general kind of input, and in the next example we'll see how to take this string representations of numbers and turn it into numerical values. But this is a nice handy feature if we want to integrate a Java program with some larger application and pass some information in at runtime. That's what this string argument array is for.